Hey, this is Kyle Thomas from Exhorder, and you're listening to the Brutally Delicious Podcast. Hey, how's it going?
Good. Thanks for taking the time. I appreciate it. Especially such short notice.
Yeah, I'm happy.
Where are you guys at today?
All good. Yeah, we're at a truck stop.
In mid-tour?
We're en route to the first show. We're playing St. Vitus in Brooklyn tomorrow, so we're somewhere in Pennsylvania.
Gotcha. What's it like to be finally back out on the road again?
So far, it's been very stress relieving to just have left and be on the vehicle and just back in the mindset of, not being home preparing for it, to be honest with you.
Right.
That's the best part.
Did you guys have a whole lot of extra protocols to follow to get ready for this, or?
A little bit. There's been some, there are some mandates with the touring. This is a Live Nation tour, so there are protocols that you have to follow, with, vaccinations or, having test records be current and all that stuff. So, some venues I think are more on that than others, depending on what part of the world you're in.
Right.
And it seems to me, from what I'm hearing, like, in Europe, it's kind of the same thing. Some places are very on that, and some maybe a little more lackadaisical.
Okay. What was the thought process or the reason to go back and do Slaughter in the Vatican top to bottom?
Well, that was something that the first time we did that was actually at St. Vitus, the very first show back after we reunited. It went over so well that we got booked on Psycho Las Vegas to do it for 2020. But obviously 2020 was a wash for everybody. Right. So that got pushed back to this year. We were rehearsing for the Psycho Las Vegas set in August, and it's a lot of work to prepare for doing a specialty set like that. Right. So we basically thought, why waste all of this hard work preparing for this and just do it once. So we asked our booking agent to see if there were any feelers. He could throw feelers out there to see if we could get a tour, and here we are.
That's pretty cool. And I imagine the old school fans are super happy about all that too. So that's great.
Yeah. Of course, Slaughter in the Vatican is still always the go-to, at this point. There's people who prefer this album over that one, but
sure.
That's the one that launched us into infamy. So,
right.
At this point, it's kind of like the low-hanging fruit and the bread and butter. So,
during the pandemic, were you guys able to take advantage of the time and do some writing or work on some new material, or how did that work out?
Yeah. We all were really busy with the writing process, pretty much from jump. I think any band that kind of snoozed on that opportunity set themselves up for being in a bad position, because now the bands that did put in the work during the pandemic, or if they're not releasing albums now, they're not far off. So, we've been in pre-production for it for quite some time, but it's something that we're going to be working really hard on in the upcoming months after tour. So looking forward to that.
Are you guys able to get together and write all together in like the old traditional sense, or are you more or less taking advantage of technology?
It's tough for us to do that because none of us live in the same state. We've got 4 guys in 4 different states. So that makes it, the dynamics are, it's a long commute. So yeah. I think what everybody's pretty much, set out to do is we've all just kind of crafted our own songs individually, and then when we got together in August while we were rehearsing for the Slaughter in the Vatican set, we also did some jamming on the newer stuff, bouncing ideas off of each other, tweaking this, tweaking that, seeing what works and what doesn't. So, that's the good part is once we finally get together, we do, hear each other out on ideas and stuff. So, sometimes something that somebody submits works and sometimes it doesn't. So we just kind of stockpile what does work together,
right,
and move on from there.
Do you find that when you're writing the songs for the song's sake or more for how they're going to come across in a live setting? Because they're so energetic and heavy.
That's probably a little thought process that goes into let's try this because it would turn out nicely live. But really, I think everybody just kind of writes what they're feeling. I know I do. So when I'm not feeling much, I'm not terribly inspired. So if you force writing when you're not inspired, you're usually just going to get crap. So you have to take advantage of those moments when you're in a very creative mode and just spit out as much as you can during that period. And it doesn't mean that all of that's going to get used, but you cherry pick the best of it and kind of start assembling songs. I've got so many half-finished songs from the past 30 years. It's not even funny.
Really? That just a whole reel of them?
Yeah. I mean, sometimes they get used. Sometimes they come back around decades later, and sometimes they just collect dust forever. So it just depends.
You mentioned sort of the inspiration and, being inspired. Did you find writing during the last, I could say 2 years now, cathartic?
Yeah, absolutely. As a creator, whether you're a visual artist or a musician or a writer, that anything of that where the creative arts is what you do, I find I'll wake up in the middle of the night sometimes and music's just going off in my head, or I have a lyrical idea, and there are times where I do have to get up and get out of bed and get that idea down, not only because I don't want to lose it, but if I don't, it's just going to
rattle around
me until I do something with it. Yeah, so that's what I find with most people that are in the same boat as me is the wheels are just kind of always going, and you have to get it out as much as you can and yes, it is cathartic to finally piece something together, whether I'm writing with the guys for Exhorder or with the guys for Trouble or doing my own songs that I do by myself. To get to the end when you finally got a finished product, it's definitely a freeing kind of feeling.
Right.
So that's probably just about any artist or writer will tell you the same thing.
So what's it like then? I know I'm kind of just going down a wormhole here, but what's it like on the flip side of that when the song that you wrote that meant so much to you and exposed so much of you connects with someone outside of the band?
My personal take on that would be when I'm writing a song, it's obviously mine and only mine, unless I'm collaborating with someone. It's everyone's. But until it's released, there's really nobody to bounce it off of unless you're people hear it within your trusted circle. But once I release a piece that's been something that came from me, once it becomes public, I no longer consider it mine. It belongs to everybody. And art is subjective. So what it means to me might mean something totally different to someone else. And that's the beauty of art, is it's interpretive. So, I actually had a lady tell me one time that some songs that I had worked on, 20 years ago, helped her get through, a death in her family that she was in a terrible place, and the songs, the take that she got on it helped her through that. And it wasn't intended that way. It was actually the songs were actually written to help me get out of a terrible place that I was in. But who am I to tell her, no, that's not what the song meant? No, that's what the song means to her.
And that's powerful, so, right?
I do get that question sometimes. What does this song mean? Well, what does it mean to you?
Right. And that's powerful when I imagine when something like
that.
Yeah,
it is kind of, it's almost it can be even like scary in a little bit of a way that it's something that you say or do could have that much of an impact on someone else's life. So that's a very powerful thing, and not something to be abused in my perspective. I think it's, I don't want to say that I feel like I have some sort of responsibility or anything, because everyone should be accountable and responsible for themselves.
Right.
But at the same time, good or bad, when you hear the results of what your work has done for somebody, sometimes bad things happen. And people say, well, this song inspired me to do that, serial killers or kid. So, I can only imagine how that's got. I feel badly for artists who've had that kind of situation happen, that their work somehow tethered to tragic events. And that's no good. It's not their fault, but still,
No, I 100% agree with you. And I know we're totally off topic here. Sorry, my dog is going crazy. We're totally off topic here. But do you think as a performer or as an artist in any medium, not just music, you have a sort of obligation? That's kind of, I think, what you were saying, right?
Yeah, I don't. I don't feel like ultimately that I can have some accountability for anything. It's not the way I was raised. My parents taught me to be accountable for myself. I did the same thing with my children.
Sure.
And but at the same time, you don't want to be reckless necessarily.
Right.
But art, again, I liken a lot of what I do with whatever I've done. All the millions of bands I've worked with. This one in particular, Exhorder, it's almost like horror movies. You got a director that's making a horror movie. Well, doesn't mean John Carpenter's running out in a Captain Kirk mask stabbing people to death. So if we're singing horrible lyrical content, it doesn't mean that that's what I do. Look at all the you find more do-gooders in extreme music.
Yes.
That work on cat rescue, dog rescue.
Yes.
Save the planet kind of stuff.
Because you're able to get it all out.
Yeah. But, I don't know. I've always enjoyed making people uncomfortable with the music that I make over the years. So I think just about all of us probably feel the same way. It's less about what happens in your day-to-day life than it is about just saying things that everybody's thinking and not being afraid to get it out there. And sometimes it's hard to look at or listen to. Sometimes people enjoy looking at it and listening to it. So if it's not for you, turn the channel.
Right. So what's next for you guys? You got this run here and then another single, or are we doing a EP?
No, focus is album. We're under contract with Nuclear Blast for a follow-up to More in the Southern Skies. And it's been 2 years, so it's time,
Yeah, because I know the music business has sort of reinvented itself, right? We've got like the every 6-week single sort of thing, but fans like me, music fans, I'm old school. I want the record. I want to do the whole process. It's a ritual. Right, it's a ritual.
Liner notes and everything. I mean,
oh, yeah.
To me, that was half of the experience of coming home from the store with brand new vinyl, knowing not only the smell of it and undoing the plastic and reading the lyrics or the thank you list.
Right.
And being a kid, not understanding what producing is and what exec production is and mastering and all that. So you always, as a kid, or maybe somebody that's not a kid but just doesn't understand, that's all kind of mysterious stuff. But I always enjoyed seeing who did what. And
where and the whole thing, right? Yeah. And then listening from top to bottom, the way it was meant to be sequenced and the whole thing.
Perhaps even 17 times in a row.
Yes, right. I think the kids these days, they have like that short attention span, like my son's age. They just want that one song and then they're ready to move on. There's no engaging in the medium like I think it was meant to be.
Oh, one of my kids, man, she'll play a song and before it's halfway over, she's skipping to the next one. And I'm like, I feel like I'm being like on the teacup ride when you're going back and forth.
Yeah.
Like, oh, stop this. Let the ride finish.
So I imagine it's been a couple of years now. You're going to hit the shows. First show tomorrow night. You're going to see multi generations at this point, right? Because you've got your fans bringing their kids to the shows. That's going to be pretty intense, right?
That is true. We first started noticing that during festival season in Europe, when we first started playing shows again, just how many kids are now being brought to the shows. There are more venues in the States that are starting to do, letting under 18 come in, which I think is great. There's no reason why these shows shouldn't be accessible to everyone.
Right.
And that's the way of the future and the hope of keeping extreme music alive. Right. Having to compete with the oversaturation of what the mainstream is pushing on people, which isn't hard rock. Hard rock survives because hard rock is like a cockroach. And right. I think that when children are given the opportunity to listen to it in addition to the mainstream, I always let my kids choose what they wanted to.
Sure.
But at the same time, they heard what I was listening to as well. So, there's nothing wrong with liking a lot of different things. I don't listen to a lot of heavy metal personally in my free time anymore. I'm just at that point in my life where I gravitate towards other things, but kind of like that old saying goes, the carpenter's wife has no furniture. Who wants to do their work all the time when they're, in their free time? Yeah, give me an old school funk record every day at my house or some 80s new wave, and that's what I. But I think it also bodes well for the writing process, because I'm not listening to a lot of what's going on in contemporary music. So there's not going to be an accidental influence from that. And I think it helps make what we're doing sound a little more proprietary.
I agree. And I'm going to go back to the 80s new wave, because I was just listening to the Psychedelic Furs this morning while I was setting everything up. I love that stuff.
Hell yeah. Yeah, they just played in New Orleans. Sadly, I missed it. I meant to go. And between dealing with Hurricane Ida and all that stuff, I forgot to purchase tickets for it. So I don't know if I'll get another chance to see them. But great band.
All right, so I got one more for you before we go, and I don't know if you're going to know the answer or not, but sorry, my dog is going crazy.
It's all right.
Why do you think there are so many really good, really heavy bands that come out of Louisiana? Because you got a lot. Disproportionate, I think.
Yeah. I mean, there's always just kind of been that, I guess, I don't know if it's in the water or what, but, we had some to look up to when we were young. There were some heavy metal bands that we liked from here, but from New Orleans. But really, it wasn't until I started going to the punk rock shows where I started really connecting with what was going on locally. Right. So I think a lot of these bands, why there's so many now, is because in the late 80s, early 90s, there was such an influx of bands that were coming out of New Orleans. And you got to look at the industry too. Before they started signing acts like us, there weren't a lot from New Orleans to look to I guess for the industry to feel like there was a legit New Orleans scene. Right. You had back then it was either New York or LA, California, San Francisco, and in between was kind of like, but then, the Seattle scene broke, the New Orleans scene broke. Right. Next thing you know, you got Slipknot coming from Idaho, that Or Iowa. Where are they from?
I think it's Iowa. Yeah. Yeah.
So, but yeah, so there's great stuff between the coasts that before the advent of the internet, it was hard for people to find out about.
Yeah, maybe. Because I was just thinking, right off the top of my head, I was thinking Goat Whore and Crowbar and I Hate God and all those, even Pantera, right? All these great big bands.
Absolutely. Yeah. There's such a rich, dynamic scene down in the South, and I guess at the end of the day, it all points towards the classic New Orleans music from before us that wasn't heavy metal, but just it
was New Orleans.
Yeah, it set the standard and just kind of bled into what we grew up listening to, which was hard rock and heavy metal. So,
right. Interesting. Well, that's all I've got. I've come to the end of my questions. I appreciate you taking the time.
Yeah. Thanks for having us, for sure. Really appreciate it. And everybody that's been making themselves available to us for interviews has been so nice and friendly, and I appreciate that.
That's great. It's a definite community. Thank you, my friend. Stay safe on tour. Hopefully I'll catch you around this area sometime. Hey, be well. Take care.
See you soon. Take care.
Right, bye.
Thanks.
Hello out there. Yes, hello out there, everyone. I'm Hal Schwartz.
And I'm Flynn McLean. Together we host None But the Brave, a podcast dedicated to the music and career of Bruce Springsteen.
Bruce and E Street Band are on tour right now for the first time in 6 years, and we're taking a detailed look at what's happening on stage in our bi-weekly episodes.
We've also been recently joined by some very exciting guests, including rock journalist Warren Zanes and Stephen Hayden, Backstreet's Magazine founder Charles Cross, and Barstool's Kirk Minahan.
If you're a diehard Springsteen fan, this is the show for you.
So please subscribe to None But the Brave on your favorite podcasting platform, and we hope to see you further on up the road.
Thank you so much. We'll be seeing you.